Whilst hunting around for something interesting to make a new video about, I stumbled across the Sony Flamingo portable record players from the early 1980s. These things have a striking design and some interesting features, so I looked on eBay to see if I could pick one up, and the answer is no, I can't. They now demand an astronomical premium over the original price. So instead I've managed to pick this thing up. It's a Sharp turntable, has some similar features, but I've got no intention of replacing my existing turntable, this RP-114. I really like it. The reason I got this is much the same as the reason I got this cassette player. Not because it's the best thing on the market, which some people criticise me for not getting the best. The reason I got this one is because I thought it was interesting or unusual because of that front spectrum analyzer. And that's the same reason I got this thing, because I think you might find it interesting or unusual too. You might not have seen one of these before. So let's have a look at it and see how it works. Now this thing has been in its box since it was made in the early 1980s. It's never been bought or repaired or looked at. It's just sat in a warehouse somewhere since then. Now on the back here I've got the wire to attach a plug to it, but looking at that I've just seen it's multi-voltage, so I've got to check down the bottom here. Yeah, it's set to 240 volts, so that's important. When's the last time you put a plug on something you bought? That takes you right back, doesn't it? You don't put plugs on things anymore. Right, so now we've got it all wired up. Let's just put it on this table here. Now the phono outs that are on the back have also got a ground lead on those as well. I've got to put those into a phono preamp, and then I'm just putting them into this portable speaker here so I can just hear it while I'm messing about with it. So let's plug it in and see what happens. Now we press eject there and take out this piece of paper and these sort of protective things that go around the two styluses in there. The record goes in the middle here and is clamped between those two bits. There is one stylus that plays the rear of the record, the back of the record, side B I suppose, and there's the one in the door that plays the front of the record. So let's just see how this works. Close this door and fingers crossed, press play. No, nothing happens. The record doesn't turn, and also the stylus in the door's got sort of stuck there, as you see at an angle on the right hand side. That's that silver thing. So it's clear that this is in need of some repair. Now I was expecting this when I bought it. After all, it's been in a box for 30 years, so I bought a new belt for it. I'm expecting the one inside here to be perished, but let's have a look inside, see what's going on. You've got your typical early 1980s electronics mess, and we've also got a mess here on this wheel. That is supposed to be the belt, and it's just turned to this gluey mush. So we're going to have to replace that. It's possibly the worst case scenario because I'm going to have to clean it as well rather than just swap it out. But we've got to take this circuit board off first. Then I've got to clip these little cable ties that are holding all the cables to the circuit board. And then we've got to unplug them all. Luckily they are in plug-in sockets, not soldered to it. Otherwise this would be a bit of a nightmare. So once I've unplugged all those, we can fold out that circuit board and get to this big wheel here, which is held in with this bracket. It's got 4 screws in there, so we'll just take all 4 of those out, and finally we can get to it now, but we've just got to unclip a little spring on the top right, which I think's the door mechanism. So once I've got that separated, we can now take this out of the machine and see what's going on. Well, there's the rest of the belt. It's gone down towards the middle there. You can see that sort of blob there. I'll just pick that out with my screwdriver. So that's gone into a gluey blob of kind of chewing gum type stuff. Right, now we've got to clean the machine. So I've got some isopropyl alcohol. I'm cleaning it as much as I can. Get rid of all the sticky residue that's been left behind. This was a bit of an annoying job, but after 10 minutes of cleaning, got it all looking almost as good as new. Notice on here, 1982, September 82 stamped on there. So obviously that's when it was put together. Here's one of my new belts. I got a pack of 2. They were the same price as a pack of 1, so just in case I make a mistake. Put it around the motor there, and then, quite tricky this, feed it around the outside of that wheel, and then put the wheel back into the machine again. And then I've just got to screw in those 4 screws. This is a bit like one of those American restoration things, isn't it? You know, when you're watching someone else do some DIY, but basically you're just sat around doing nothing. I always find those things quite entertaining. Hopefully you're enjoying watching me waste away my Saturday putting this thing back together again. So all it is now, we're reversing what we did before, putting all the screws in the circuit board, and we're also plugging all those wires back into their sockets, hopefully the right ones. I didn't note them all down, but I think all the sockets are different sizes. Bit of tape around there because I don't have any tiny cable ties. Right, I can spin it round now and let's see what's happening this time. Okay, so I turn it on, press the eject mechanism, the door pops open. By the way, the door doesn't eject unless the power's on. Put a record in there and press play, and hopefully this should start spinning. Yes, there we go. So that's working fine. We've still got that issue with the stylus getting stuck in the door, so let's open the door up and see what's going on there. It seems to have come off its track or something. It must have got knocked, this box, or dropped or something. That comes off quite easily, and I can see the problem here. This has fallen down. It's like a little beam that the stylus rides along, and it should be in that bracket on the right hand side, and it's slipped out and dropped down, which is why it keeps getting stuck. And it's all down to this little piece of plastic here that's just supposed to hold it in place and can slide out of place. To stop it happening again, put a blob of glue on that. So let's just have a look how this works whilst the front's open. So we can jump to a track by pressing the button here. The needle moves along. I say needle, I'm sort of old-fashioned, you know, stylus moves along, drops down gently and then plays the record. What it does actually is quite clever. It listens to it, it mutes the sound down, and then it brings the sound up. So you kind of hear it, catch the end of the last track, and then it plays you the next track once the silence pops in. So that little bit of grease on there was alright. I checked all the different components, checked that the grease was in the right places and it hadn't solidified, and then screwed it all back up together, and we could have a proper look at how this works now. It seems appropriate to demonstrate this with a record that's from the correct time period, so here's the first now. That's what I call music compilation album. So we just pop that in there. It sits at a bit of an angle, and then when you close the door, the record goes upright. And then you just press play, which brings in the stylus from the right hand side and puts it down on the record automatically. You can see where the stylus is on the record. There's a little red LED in the end of there, and it shows with some numbers above there to give you an approximate time as to how much time is left on the record. You can move that stylus to the next track just by tapping a button, and it'll find the next track and put it down in the right place. You can do it manually if you want. You can lift the stylus up by pressing the Q button and manually move the stylus back and forward on the record, and then when you're happy, press Q and it'll put it back down again. But as I say, you can skip to the correct track just by tapping those buttons, and it'll go either forward or back one track, and then if you tap it multiple times, it'll skip multiple tracks. This record player is very much a product of its time, an era that was often more about style over substance or convenience over quality. Things like pressing the eject button, watching the stylus move back and the door automatically open would be pretty impressive in the early 80s. But you're missing out on decent sound quality and build quality. If you want to play a 45 record, put this little bit of plastic in the bottom here. One thing this turntable has problems with are weird discs. Things like clear vinyl or white vinyl confuse the sensor on the track recognition thing, so it doesn't know where the next track is. There's no problem playing these. You can play them from beginning to end and on both sides, but you just can't do track skipping because the sensor can't see where the tracks are. Although a picture disc is a good way to demonstrate these functions. For example, I can play either side A or side B of this record, or if I want, I can get it to play side A over and over again, or same with side B. If I want, I can get it to play side A and then side B, or if I want, I can get it to play side A, then side B over and over again, presumably until something sets on fire. Now notice here the stylus is moving towards the centre of the record. When it reaches the end of this side, I've got it set to both sides play, it lifts up, moves to the outside, the direction reverses on the motor, and then the stylus on the rear comes in and plays the other side of the record. I suppose that was probably quite impressive back in the day. So, whilst it's an impressive machine for the time, and definitely something that's a bit of a museum piece, I'd much rather have my manual record player. I actually like messing around, lifting the needle up, putting it in the right place on the record. I've got one button on this, it's the power button, and if I want to take the belt off, it's as easy as that. So sometimes it's good to look back at things, see what was cool back in the day, but really, part of the fun of vinyl is messing around with your record player, not pressing buttons. So this is something that is perhaps best left back in the 80s. Anyway, that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.